Welcome to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder. And you know, I've always wanted to do a segment about when you buy these particular plants, you should just buy the insecticide or disease control at the same time. In our first segment, I'm going to tell you not to avoid these popular plants, just to know that you will need to keep them sprayed in order to keep them looking their best. So I'm excited about this segment, so stay tuned to that one. And our second segment is the first of a two-part rose segment. First up, we're going to decide and talk about the different types of roses and where they should be planted. And then next up, and our third segment, is part 2 on roses and how they should be fed and pampered. And it's not hard. It's just easier if you know going in that they'll need a little bit of TLC to look their best. In our fourth segment, we're going to tell you about a cutting garden and cutting garden plants that we just got in at Bloomers. And if you like cut flowers, these varieties are what you should plant in your garden. And finally, in What's Bugging Me segment, I had 2 ticks crawling on me, and I don't know where they came from. They just were like, one was, I'll explain it in our final segment. But here how to get rid of these creepy, crawly menaces in our final segment. So stay tuned. We'll be back in the garden right after these messages.
Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as the concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is, Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So, the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best-looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So there are some plants that when you buy them should come with a warning label that will require pesticide applications. And you're going to recognize some of these plants because they look great in the nursery and they look great in your yard for a while. Now, the first one is variegated euonymus. They're the ones that are green leaf that have a yellow edge or a white edge and that they're real pretty, but they end up like all of a sudden just like their stems get coated with this white stuff. And that white stuff is scale. and that they're a host-specific plant to Euonymus scale. Their ornamental attributes are so great that people use them and want them, but they need to spray them. And that if you have Euonymus, and it's the upright kind more than the ground cover time, it's in the upright again, the one with has the. It's also called golden Euonymus or silver king Euonymus. Those are the ones that get it, and they end up over time, if you don't do anything, that they look really ratty looking. I was at a customer's house recently, and I was checking on their yucca, and I was looking at their landscape, and they had like 3 or 4 of the silver king Euonymus together, and they looked awful. They looked awful, and that they were like almost to the point of death. And the way that this scale works is that when it is a nymph, when they're small and the eggs hatch, that they can scurry around and they can move. But then when they become adults, they like are barnacles, like other scale, and it just attaches themselves to the stem. And they get almost like a cottony covering on them. And that's the scale. And what you have to do is you have to kill the adults, you have to kill the nymphs, which are running around, and the eggs. So you need to do a couple of applications. And here's what you use. All Seasons horticultural oil is an organic oil, paraffin oil, and that the way that it'll work is that it smothers the insect in the scale so that it just doesn't poison it, but it smothers it. Now, you need to make a few applications, and it also, one key is that it has to be below 85 degrees or you can burn the plants. And if you do that 3 to 4 times a year, you'll clean it up in no time. But it's going to take a while for that plant to bounce back. And again, we're talking about variegated Euonymus, whether it's yellow or white, and that you have Euonymus scale, and it also works on other types of insects as well. And you want to use All Seasons horticultural oil and spray that, and you're going to do that 3 to 4 times a year because, again, you want to get every generation. And then yours will look right like they did in the nursery when you bought them, the way they're supposed to look. And that you can tell your friends and neighbors because they'll be wondering, how do you keep them looking so good? And it's because of that spray. It's not a whole lot of work. It really isn't. In the next couple of segments coming up, we're going to be talking about roses. But no matter what type of rose, they're going to need to be sprayed for insect and diseases. Even shrub roses. We were promised that knockout roses were resistant to disease, but it turns out that there are other issues. In the segment, one of the segments coming up, we're going to talk about rose rosette disease, and it seems to be a carrier for the mite that carries that disease from rose to rose, and that you just need to know you have to spray your roses. You just do it. You just know it. You just go ahead and don't worry, oh, there's so much work. No, they're not. If you spray them, they're not a lot of work. If you expect to just sit back and look at the most beautiful plant in the world and fold your arms and say, look how great. No, you got to earn it. You got to earn it. And that means you got to spray them. You got to spray them. So if you get roses, no matter what type, you're going to have to spray them. Just know that. For them to be beautiful, it's going to take some work and effort on your part, and that's why not everybody grows great roses. I think it really comes back to when I was in a parking lot and I was looking at the berm planting in the parking lot and noticing that they were shrub roses and that they were covered in rose rosette disease, which is not curable. But what you have to do is you have to control the mite. But that's what's coming up in a segment or two. Alberta spruce gets spider mites. They just do. And that all you need to do is spray them when the temperatures rise. Right now they're not too active because it's not too super warm out, but they get active when the temperatures rise. And the hotter, the more prolific and active they become. And it's pretty simple. You use a systemic insecticide, and that if you look on our YouTube channel, you'll see it says systemic insecticide. And in New Jersey, imidacloprid is the active ingredient that has been outlawed. I think it's going to be outlawed in New York, or maybe already is. I think Maryland, it is outlawed. But those of you that are lucky enough to be able to buy it off the shelf, congratulations, because it is a terrific insecticide. But you have to know how it works. It works by absorbing it in the root system. You don't spray it. You create a drench, or you use granules, and it gets absorbed by the plant. You don't spray it. People were concerned about the toxicity to bees, and yeah, it is, but so are a lot of other things, including a lot of organics. The trick is this is safe to use as long as you use it correctly, but unfortunately in New Jersey and a lot of our surrounding states, we can't use it. So you need to use I have to laugh. The insecticide that you use for systemic today is the same one that was used 40 years ago. And it's the same technology. It works. But again, it needs to be sprayed often enough so that you are getting the plant. Think of it like an antibiotic. If you use the antibiotic once, it's not going to work. But if you use it on a periodical basis, like for instance, the systemic insecticide, you're going to spray 7 to 10 days apart, and you're going to do it every couple of months until October. Now, you're trying to keep it in the plant system so that it kills the spider mites. And this is Alberta spruce and spider mites. It works as long as you use it. Next one up, Pieris japonica, also known as Japanese Andromeda, that pretty white bell-shaped flower that flowers in early spring. They get lace bug. I hate lace bug. And I hate lace bug because you can't see them. You can't really see the damage unless you get up to the leaf really close. And you remember dot matrix printers? Aaron, am I too old? You understand? Aaron shaking his head, yes.
No, I don't.
You don't know what dot matrix printer were dot.
I know what they are. I wasn't around for them.
Yeah, well, you missed out. It's very little dots to make the image, and that's what lacebug does. It takes its proboscis, sticks it in the leaf, and makes these little holes. They're not even holes. These little spots where it sucks out the juice out of the leaf, and it ends up scarring that leaf to where it's a whole bunch of little holes. And it affects also azaleas too. And again, you're going to use the same thing that you're using for your Alberta spruce for spider mites. Again, that's a systemic insecticide. Okay, you can use also even the same one that you use for roses, a systemic insecticide, and you're going to use that once a month through the growing season. Hit your azaleas and rhododendrons too while you're at it. Last but not least, if you want fruit from your fruit trees that looks like the stuff you buy in the grocery store, you have to spray it. If you want to cut out the parts where the bugs have eaten or it's got a little bit of dead area, then don't spray them. But you're going to throw out most of your fruit. You need to spray your fruit trees. And it's just the way it is. If you want nice fruit, you need to spray. And you're going to have to spray an insect and disease control. And most of the time, you can go to your local garden center and they will have home orchard spray or they'll have fruit tree spray. And it's the same thing. You use it whether it's a peach tree or whether it's an apple tree or whether it's blueberries, even strawberries, that again, you need to spray in order to have success. And if you don't, it's going to be ugly. And you want to say, look what I produced. And it's all this gross looking fruit. You need to spray to make it look good. There are also some sprays that you can use that are organic. Like for instance, Revitalize is one that's an organic disease control. Spinosad is my go-to for organics. And that, again, it will work. And it's also a blend. You can even use the horticultural oil that we talked about in our first thing about the Euonymus scale, that will work that same way. That's like an early spray for your fruit trees. But just understand that you will have to spray in order to have good fruit. If you've got questions about any of this that we've talked about, fruit trees or any of the sprays, I want you to call our hotline. That's 609-685-1880. We'll be right back right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Wanting to up your game in the vegetable garden? With 90 years of organic gardening experience, the Espoma Company has you covered. Espoma Organic Garden Tone is not your average garden variety fertilizer. Garden Tone is especially blended for organic vegetable gardens. Its all-natural formula contains Biotone, a blend of organic ingredients that supplies essential nutrients for strong, healthy plants and mouth-watering vegetables. Its slow-release formula provides continuous feeding. The Biotone contained in Garden Tone is a combination of organic ingredients and beneficial microbes to help roots grow deeper and faster for bigger, more bountiful harvests. Garden Tone is simple to use and safe for people, pets, and the planet. No harmful chemicals or synthetic fertilizers are ever added. You can find Garden Tone at fine garden centers. Visit espoma.com to find a retailer near you. Garden Tone from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
If you're like me, then you absolutely love birds. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomers Home and Garden Center has you covered. They're dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds of all sorts. Want to bring more birds to your yard? Then you got to see this place. Bloomers has a huge flock of feeders, birdhouses, birdseed, and much, much more. Want to feed the birds and not the squirrels? They have this absolutely cool bronze bird feeder that will drive those sneaky squirrels nuts. They'll be moving to the next door neighbor in no time. OMG. Bloomers have these absolutely adorable birdhouses that will turn your yard into the perfect bird B&B. They carry all types of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. Bloomer stocks, Lyric, Coles, CNS, Pine Tree Farms, and much, much more that will keep those beautiful birds coming back for more. Bloomers Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County. For more information and directions, check them out on the web at bloomers.com. Bloomers Home and Garden Center, you got to see this place.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So this is the first of a two-part segment on roses, and roses are the one, not the only, but one of the only. It was the original plant that flowers all summer long and then comes back next year. Now you're going to see, like, there are, I guess, rule breakers to every rule, and that in roses are no different. So what type of roses? You're going to go, I want to buy roses. Well, okay, that's a good start. But do you want climbing roses? Well, I don't know. Climbing roses are actually a cross between other types of roses. Now, hang with me. But they have to be supported to climb. And that's either a trellis or a fence or to support onto a structure. It's not like they're going to adhere and form roots where the stems touch the trellis. It needs to be anchored in and tied on. And you need to do that carefully. And we often jokingly talk about using pantyhose, but it creates a wider surface area to hold on to that stem rather than something like either wire or a something like rope or string, because that will cut into and possibly girdle the rose itself. So there's climbers and there's ramblers. just go with climbers. Now, ramblers are an older type of rose, and where they're going to flower once. They're kind of like a wild-looking rose where it grows on clusters. It's not a big flower. I personally, if I'm growing a rose, I want it to look like a rose. So climbers will have a larger flower, and it will blossom from spring to fall. That's what I want. Ramblers bloom, and I get covered in flowers in spring, but it's pretty much one and done. Now, David Austin English roses, and that they're absolutely beautiful, that there are some climbers in that line. And English rose has a larger, they call it a cabbage type flower. That to me is an injustice because it's so beautiful, very fragrant, and that they will rebloom like modern roses. Now, Floribunda roses, Floribundas were introduced in 1930. Now, again, we're talking about Floribundas and we're talking about hybrid teas, and that, again, it's a different look to the rose flower. So let's just go that we talked about David Austin, old style, very fragrant, looks like a large open rose as opposed to the traditional rose that you would get for Valentine's Day. Actually, those are the ones like Valentine's Day are considered hybrid teas, but we'll get to those in a second. Where Floribunda rose, introduced in the 30s, and they're a cross between hybrid teas and an old-fashioned type of rose called Polythene. That's not important. But it's compact. It doesn't get as big. Really hardy. Disease resistant. Heard that before. And it has large clusters of blooms. And they're continuous bloomers. And they have the same color range as a hybrid tea rose. Now, again, that's almost everything. I used to say everything but blue, but there are some that are like a pale lavender that kind of resemble blue. So they work great in containers. And again, it's more compact, not going to be great big, and not going to get out of control. Grandifloras have a shorter stem than hybrid teas and can have clusters of blooms, large double blossoms, and they have the same hardiness. And they also continue to bloom all the way through, but they normally don't have a big fragrance. So just keep that in mind. Your grandifloras aren't going to be that fragrant. And here's the Mac Daddy of them all, is a hybrid teas. Hybrid teas, the first modern rose, classic long stem rose with individual blooms, the kind that you go out to your garden and cut. You could cut any of these, but this is the one when you think of the ones you get from the florist. Hardy, very hardy. Just got to check your hardiness because there's some that go all the way from 4 to 9, and you want to make sure that our area 5 to 7. That's what you want to look for. They bloom throughout the season, and it is the largest collection of roses that you'll see at your local garden center. Okay, ground cover roses. What the heck? What's a ground cover rose? It's like ivy. Ground cover roses are smaller flowers. They grow very low, and they have dense foliage. Flower carpet, drift, those are all types of ground cover roses. I had a beautiful selection of, and that they were planted in front of my home, and it was the pink flower carpet. And man, they were amazing. They were amazing. And I pulled them out. I wanted to redo my landscape. I pulled them out. I wish I never did because they were stunning. And to be honest with you, I'm thinking about putting them right back in. So if you go with shrub roses, here we go. They have taken over the rose world, and to our detriment in a way. Landscape roses, shrub roses, knockout roses, you know what I'm talking about. Wonderful in mass and formal hedge. So many people use them as a hedge, especially along fence lines. Disease resistant, yeah. Continually blooming, that's for sure. Very hardy. I like that part. The knockouts are somewhat shade tolerant. I like that. But again, it's going to be, there's some issues. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. So what about pruning? You need to prune roses. You just have to. Don't think that you don't. If you have a hybrid tea, Floribunda, grandiflora, you'll see that the clusters of leaves, you have the bud, and then there's like, say, maybe 2 or 3 leaves together, and then they'll go all the way down. And when you cut below where there's a 5 cluster leaf, that will be able to get you more flowers. If you cut it too high, you'll end up having mostly foliage. So, and then again, you're going to want to cut it back into the spring, and you want it before it starts growing. And don't worry, you follow the instructions, and it's going to be one of those things where it's going to feel like you're going to kill it. You're never going to see it grow again. But when you cut it in the early spring, late winter, you're going to be opening it up, getting more airflow, less disease issues. You're also going to have a nicer plant. Any of the replete modern shrub roses, okay, and again, we're talking about all of our favorite knockouts and such, they should get cut back, and you'd be surprised. Don't think that you're going to knock them out and they're not going to come back. You're going to thin out the branches, and you're going to cut it in half. It will flush out, and you'll be that much better off when you have them come back in the late spring and summer. All of a sudden, there'll be more blooms on it than you could imagine. Now, climbing roses, do not prune climbing roses for the first 3 years. Only remove any dead canes, anything that's diseased. And after 3 years, you want to cut back the lateral. So stuff that's growing horizontally, and you want to kind of make sure that you're cutting it so that you can keep it on that structure that you have it mounted to. And you want to cut it back to where it only has about 6 inches, 3 buds or so. And on a mature climber, you want to selectively thin out old canes by cutting it all the way down to the base. So you got to follow these things because, again, it's not like that climber. It's not like a clematis, where it's all herbaceous. This is something that is actually a woody plant that you're making those canes real long, and that they can be, some varieties get to be up to 20 feet. Now we're going to go back to knockout rose for a second. They're going to get to be up 3 or 4 foot wide on their own, but you want to cut them back in the early part of the years, all the way down in late winter. So this is a winter pruning project. You cut them back to about 12 or 18 inches. And then there's the petite knockouts. You cut back to about a third, and that they will do so much better, so much better. Now, things like the old style garden roses, you're going to prune in midsummer, basically after they finish blooming, and you're going to prune them to lightly shape them. You don't need to do severe pruning, but they will benefit from thinning out, and that thinning out has to do with all about having to get that air circulation around that plant so you don't have disease issues. What do they eat? So what are you going to feed your roses? First of all, granular Espoma rose tone every month. For established plants, you're going to do 1 1/4 cup around each plant, and that they will just do fantastic. It's all organic, so you don't have any fear of burning, but it also does not have any properties in it for disease control or insect control. So just keep that in mind when we talk about it in the next segment. You're going to want to use water-soluble Jack's Classic and the all-purpose and Bloom Booster. If you go back and forth with these every other watering, and you're going to do it probably every 2 to 3 weeks, and that this is immediately available to the rose, that you can do a foliar spray. So you actually, when you're feeding the plant, you can put it around the base, but also it takes some of that nutrient value through the leaves, and that you'd lightly do it. But you want to make sure that it's dry before it gets to nighttime. And that's one thing about roses. You don't want the foliage to be wet, going into the evening, because that's when disease happens. I had somebody say to me, nothing good happens after midnight. I didn't know it applied to plants. I only thought it applied to kids. So again, that's our first segment. A lot of information. If you've got questions, call the hotline, 609-685-1880. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. We are proud to announce that Bloomers in the Garden has partnered with Renewal by Andersen of Greater Philadelphia, Delaware, South Jersey, and Southern Maryland. Renewal by Andersen is the top window and door company in the United States, specializing in replacement windows and doors. You might be thinking right now, what the heck do windows have to do with gardening? Well, Renewal by Andersen makes this beautiful garden bay window that's energy efficient and made from recycled materials. It's perfect for growing the finest indoor plants possible. When you are looking out your windows filled with plants in your beautiful garden, you don't want to see old windows that are cloudy, warped, or even rotting. That's why people in the horticulture community love Renewal by Andersen. Not only do we want our gardens to be beautiful, but their homes as well. Renewal by Andersen participates in horticultural events such as flower shows, earth days, and eco fairs. To get more information and set up a free home consultation, please visit www.philadelphiawindow.com and be sure to tell them Bloomers in the Garden sent you.
Is she gone?
Nope, she's still standing there.
What is she doing?
I think she's watching the grass grow.
That's our job.
I know, right? She's watching the grass grow, the flowers grow. Ooh, look, the trees are growing.
I can't say as I blame her. Remember where she bought all this stuff.
Duh, bought us there too.
Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Find us online at bloomers.com.
Welcome back to part 2 on roses. Roses are the queen of the flower garden, but queens like to be pampered. If you go in with roses and you just know that they need to be sprayed. Just face it, they need to be sprayed. Black spot is the worst problem in this area. It can be prevented by a regular spray program with a fungicide. And the key is to regularly do it, not once, but all during the season. You know, that's the trick. It's not that big of a hassle. You just need to do it. Now, one thing that I would do, the first thing, is I would use one application, and it takes care of more than one problem at the beginning of the year, and that's by using the BioAdvance Rose and Flower Care. Okay? It will, first of all, it controls disease, and it controls insects, and it does it systemically. So again, through the plant system. And it's rainproof. You don't have to worry about it, and lasts for up to 6 weeks. After that, you want to use an actual spray, and that's a BioAdvance all-in-one rose and flower spray. It's like a 3-in-1 that you're going to use that every 10 days. Again, you're keeping that systemic action and that contact action, because not all insects come in the spring. There'll be some that all of a sudden they come in the summer. Like Japanese beetles, they don't come in March. They come like, it seems like they celebrate the 4th of July with us and all of a sudden appear. So different insects, different times of the year. So you want to continue with that systemic action so that you're controlling it all season, including disease. And with the rose and flower spray, that again, 3-in-1 formula, that it's going to control, first of all, insects, disease, and mites. So for me, you just need to do it, okay? You know, there are contact organics. You know, if you're an organic person, that will do the same thing. We talked about All Seasons oil earlier in the show, and that has to be used below 85 degrees. It smothers the insects as well as the egg masses, but it has to be used when it's below 85 degrees or you can damage the plant. Another type of insecticide, which I like as far as it's my go-to with most of my insecticide problems, including my garden, is spinosad. Spinosad is derived from a naturally occurring soil-dwelling bacterium that was collected from an abandoned rum distillery on a Caribbean island in 1982. What a great story. Anyway, they haven't found that species anywhere, and they haven't found anything that's been resistant to it. And again, it is all organic. So to me, it kills bagworms, borers, beetles, caterpillars, gypsy moth, cabbage loopers. I hate cabbage loopers. Leaf miner, spider mites, tent caterpillar, thrips, and more. It is a fantastic product. That's called spinosad. Spinosad. That is the active ingredient. And, that's one to know and to learn. Now, Fertilume that we talk about on this show all the time, Triple Action. Triple Action is a combination of neem oil and pyrethrin that's all organic. But the pyrethrin will dissipate in sunlight, so it doesn't last that long. But it also controls a lot of insects. You may have to reapply it over and over more often than some of the others. But again, it is a fantastic product because the neem oil has properties to where they call it triple action because it will control disease, it'll control insects and mites. But again, you need to reapply it. And all the organics need to be reapplied more often than the chemical types of insecticides. There's one disease that is called rose rosette disease. It devastates roses, kills them. It's a virus. They have no protection. No spray will take care of it. But they have found that it's this tiny invisible mite that is spreading the disease. If you could control the mite and kill the mite before it infects your roses, winner, chicken dinner. That's what you need to do. So you need to spray and manage the mite, not necessarily the virus. So once you have the virus, and I've told this story over and over where, again, in a parking lot, I saw all their roses infected with rose rosette, which meant that they were spreading that disease, or virus rather, from there all over in the neighborhood and in the community. Now, they need to be spread. Now, you can do it like neem oil, for instance, triple action. We'll work on it. Insecticidal soap, I don't know. Not a fan. But also there is a spinosad soap that will work. That I'll buy into. So, again, there are ways to control it, but you need to control the mite to control the virus. Hope that's understood. If you've got questions, roses can be confusing. But again, there's a lot of good information out there, and especially from Bloomers in the Garden. Call the hotline at 609-685-1880. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Fertilume's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best looking plants in the neighborhood.
If you're looking for a specific potting soil for your house plants rather than just a generic professional potting soil that sometimes, let's just say, it can be a little soggy, the Cape Netic Blend Organic and Natural Indoor Houseplant Mix from Coast of Maine is what you're looking for. It's specially formulated for indoor houseplants and flowers using a coarse coconut core, that's important, perlite, and aged bark to optimize drainage and aeration for robust root development. The coconut core is what true gardeners and professionals are looking to replace some of the peat moss that are in most potting soil blends. It adds a little more air around the root system without having it dry out. The peat sometimes gets a little wet. Do you have any fungus gnats flying around? That happens too. So if you've got the coconut core in your mix, it's something that's going to be better certainly for indoor houseplants. So whether you're growing peace lilies, spider plants, philodendrons, monsteras, or other popular or exotic houseplants, this unique compost-free blend provides the optimum structure and benefits for nurturing strong, beautiful indoor plants. And again, that's the Cape Netic Blend Indoor Houseplant Mix by Coast of Maine. Look for it at your local garden center. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, I love growing cut flowers, and there's nothing better than going out into your garden with a pair of shears and coming back with a bouquet for the kitchen table. No cooking required. I tell you, there's a group of cutting flowers that are labeled just for that we carry at Bloomers. I'm going to rattle off some names here, so get your pens and pencils out. And that first of all, let's start with Ageratum. Now, not the short one. There's a variety called Blue Horizon. It gets anywhere from, say, 24 to 36 inches tall. And it has that same color. And it's one thing, it's deer resistant, so the deer aren't going to come and eat it. And it works great as a cut flower. Amaranthus, Love Lies Bleeding. They get big. They can get up to 5 feet. And they have that cascading, like it's almost like a pipe cleaner kind of flower that's red. Sometimes there are varieties that are pink. I like the red one. The darker color, the better. I actually was at Bartram Gardens and I took a cutting from a plant to grow. And because these kind of things were not available from our annual growers. You know, they weren't going to grow something like that. But finally, one of our growers did, and it's a great plant, and I suggest if you see it, buy it and put it in. Remember, it gets big. Love Lies Bleeding in Amaranthus. Great plant. Great plant. Celosia. Now, this is the coxcomb type. Now, there's the feathery type of celosia, but this is the coxcomb that kind of looks like brain coral. You know, that is the one that I want you to get. That it has a series called Bombay series, and that will get to be 24 to 40 inches tall. So it works works in a cut flower arrangement as opposed to, the short ones that you get most of the time in cell packs. they don't get very tall. Like they only get to maybe 14 inches tall. Now, look for some of the other varieties of celosia, the ones that are more of like the feathery type, that are more like the paintbrush type, some people call them, that will work. But make sure you're checking the labels for the height. If they're small, you kind of want to disregard them. You want something that's going to get to be at least 18 to 24 inches tall so you can actually cut it and use it in your cut flower arrangements. A great plant, and you know how we talk about color, texture, form. This is one that covers both. Cosmos. There's the Versailles mix, 40 inches tall, and they're blush pink, carmine red, deep pink, so there's mixture of colors. But it has that feathery foliage, so again, it gives you a different texture, and it can be a great filler. And there's also a variety called Pretty Picotee, and that's white flowers with magenta and pink edges. They're going to get to be about 30 to 36 inches tall. And again, Cosmos, it has that great foliage that it works as, again, a texture that you're looking for. Dianthus, but not like the Dianthus maybe you're used to. These are carnations. And that there's a couple of different varieties. The Amazon series, not that Amazon. This is a variety called Amazon, and that gets to be up to 36 inches tall and has great colors. How about Dusty Miller? Dusty Miller has that silvery foliage that works great in a cut flower. Now, you've got to let them grow tall enough so that you can use them. Don't try to pick them off when they're only 4 inches tall, that they can get to be 10 inches tall. So we're talking about probably late summer before they're going to be ready. Eucalyptus is great. And it has obviously that great like texture, but also its fragrance is really, really good. Adds to that cut flower arrangement. Gomphrena, it is that there's Globe Gomphrena, and that it's also it's going to be Globe Amaranth. I don't see it often in that only when you're buying it. 18 to 24 inches tall, great addition. They let the plants get big before you start cutting them back. And then there's different types of grasses, like, for instance, ornamental millet. Ornamental millet looks great. 36 to 48 inches, and there's everything from like a green to like the purple majesty that's really a dark purple that looks great. That's, again, it's going to be one of those accent plants, color, texture, form, that is going to help bring out some of the other flowers when it's against that either chartreuse green or that purple, that deep purple. Lizanthus. I have had good and bad luck with Lizanthus. It's very hard to get. I have not been able to get it yet this year. I've had customers that are coming in asking for it. It is a common cut flower that you'll get in arrangements or you'll see at the florist. But to grow it in our area, you sometimes have challenges. But again, the Grandiflorum ABC series, 36 to 45 inches tall. You want to look for things that are tall. Nicotiana, which flowering tobacco. There are some varieties that get tall enough to be used, 24 inches or so. You can use those. Also, when they're in your garden, they do attract hummingbirds, so keep that in mind. Salvia, big blue, tall. They want tall salvia, not the short salvia. And again, there's blue and there's also red. Make sure you get the tall ones, not the short ones. Statice, great plant for the flowers, for cut flowers. 30 to 35 inches strong, tall, strong stems, perfect. Stock is okay. Stock, 24 to 30 inches tall, great scent, but sometimes it takes a while to get there. Sunflowers, ideal, easy to grow. Just make sure you keep some of the insects off of them. Now there's verbena, not that type of verbena, but there's a verbena that's called Buenos Aires. that gets to be 40 to 50 inches tall and has really nice airy flowers. It doesn't look like, oh, look, that's verbena. It is, but you may not recognize it. And then there's zinnias. You want tall zinnias, cut and come zinnias. There's a giant series. And then, of course, snapdragons, and that they make a great cut flower. If you've got a question, call that hotline, 609-685-1880. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with the #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit Espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So what's bugging me? So I'm lounging on the couch. All of a sudden I feel this thing, something on the hair of my arm. It was a tick. I was like, where the heck did that go? I took a shower, walked inside. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. So pulled it off and said, that was weird. I'm sitting on the couch. All of a sudden I feel this thing on the back of my leg. It's another tick. It's tick season, okay? We talked about it here in the studio. I think everybody here has had a tick on them. And that it's coming from any of the brush that's along the edges of your house, or, it could be your arborvitaes. It could be just, brush that you have between properties, that they are out and looking to suck your blood. Okay. You need to get rid of ticks now. They start that spray program. So they can carry some nasty things like Lyme disease. Everybody remembers the panic over Lyme disease, and that they can even carry all types of things. Now, what are you going to do? Treat your lawn, first of all, and you're going to want to put something down on your lawn that has the Lambda Soluthren, or it has, like, for instance, there is we've got it up here on the show. Let's see, bifenthrin. That's the one I would use personally. You want to spray all around the perimeter of your property, and then you want to put down an insecticide. Usually a granular is going to be easier for you, and that's going to work. And you put it down on your lawn, and you go ahead and you let it go, because if you don't do it now, they're just going to breed, and that they're going to get on your animals, they're going to get on you, they're going to get on your kids. Nothing's worse than finding a tick on your kids. You feel like a bad parent. Anyway, been there. So most of these will control other insects as well. Like most of it will control certainly grubs, but chinch bugs, weevils, mole crickets. Some people hate crickets. They're terrified of them. Fleas and ticks, also ants, and a whole host of other insects that are pests, the true pests. So again, ticks are out there. You need to spray the perimeter of your property, the brush and the shrubs, just because that's where they're hanging out. They're just waiting to hitch a ride on an animal, a human coming by. So make sure that you're spraying that as well, and putting a lawn tick control in. That will also do a wide range of other things that you want to do anyway to keep things under control. So it is tick season. So it's war. Get out there and get rid of them. We'll be back in the garden right after these messages.
Coast of Maine's Organic Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the best soil for raised bed gardens, planter boxes, and container gardens. It grows amazing vegetables. It is made with a mixture of manure compost, worm castings, lobster and kelp meal, mycorrhiza, green sand, and biochar. It's ready to use straight out of the bag with no need for additional components or tilling. If you love growing fresh and hearty vegetables, herbs, and flowers, Coast of Maine's Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the perfect choice for you. At Coast of Maine, we believe in growing organically and buying locally.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So, ticks are a problem, but I tell you, that first list is my favorite as far as when you're buying these plants, buy an insect control. Variegated euonymus has euonymus scale, so buy horticultural oil. Alberta spruce, get spider mites. Just get a systemic insect control. Pieris japonica, also known as Andromeda, get lace bug. Get a systemic insect control. And also hit your azaleas while you're at it. And then again, fruit trees, just know that you're going to have a spray program. I don't care if it's organic or it's not organic. You just got to know that you have to do it. And most important, don't be afraid to grow roses. They are not hard. There are just some things that you need to know that what you have to do. So that you get roses, they're going to need to be fed, they're going to need to be pruned, and they're going to need to be sprayed for insect and disease. And they will be stunning, and they will reward you. We talked about cut flowers. Nothing's more beautiful than having cut flowers that contain roses. That's for sure. So again, go to your local garden center. See what they have going on this weekend. And ask them, that can you help me with any of these projects? They'll be more than happy to. They know what they're doing. Tell them that you listen to Bloomers in the Garden and that they will be more than willing. And don't think that they're going to make you feel stupid. That's not their job. They don't do that. They want to make gardeners. They don't want people to feel intimidated in any way. So just remember that. So again, the next time you visit your local garden, tell them you listen to Bloomers in the Garden. We'd appreciate that. And again, we're going to see you in the garden.